And welcome to Pulp Mythos. I'm Brian here with Spencer, and we're discussing Big Sky, episode number 14, titled Nice Animals. If you've not hit the sub button or the bell, please do so. We do these reviews every single week. Check out all the other content on the channel. Also, leave a comment and a like. That really helps push the video. Well, we got our answers from the ending of last week. We, as predicted, Angela the clerk did die.
Oh,
Yet Jenny didn't. You know, it was miraculous. She survived, but the other woman died, so she can't
which
tell her the truth.
the greatest part about that too is that she dove to protect her, and the way they showed her, Jenny essentially killed her.
But thank you. I was about to go into that. Yeah, because if you're right, and they did the recap where she goes to help her, but I guess she pushed her down onto a brick and it smashed her brains. Like I guess that's what happened. So you're right. Jenny, in essence, I guess, sort of killed Angela the way the show framed it.
Yeah. So now she's going to be charged with murder. I'll write her out of the show.
But so yeah, we get the answer to that, and then all right, I'm gonna do it again. I apologize to the audience if this is annoying. I did it last week, but I'm gonna keep it really brief. Okay, going back to how Ronald escaped last week. There's more to it. There's an extended sequence basically at the beginning of this episode in which we learn that not only did Ronald escape with a body, he was able to, while hiding behind that couch, he was able to get out, get the body, get out of the house, get the body in his vehicle, slit the tires of Mark, and then take a one of the toy figurines, put tape over its mouth, to I guess for fun, sit it on the car to mock them, and then he pulled out and they never heard. Oh, and it's also nighttime now, which I guess they were in the basement for a couple hours. I don't know. My complaint last week is that it clearly that it was a scene that either something happened in editing or they didn't shoot a scene or something went wrong because it just doesn't make sense. The rest of the show doesn't, they don't really have too many, like, I guess what you would consider editing um issues where a scene doesn't flow properly. This one makes no sense.
I think the car chase scene in episode 8 or 9, where they were flooring the truck when they were trying to catch the Tesla or whatever, and they like had the foot to the board and they kept cutting it back and forth, and they were driving like 14 miles an hour. That was but the only explanation that I concluded myself without any help with the show, because the show didn't show us shit, was the only thing about the body that would have made sense is maybe he had already moved the body prior to them showing up. But literally everything else, no. The body part being moved, yep. But that's the only part that I think could have been explained. But once again, why didn't they explain it? It's one line of dialogue would have fixed all the issues with that scene. They could have mentioned anything, but they just write it off like nothing happened. They don't care to explain it.
Well, the door was open upstairs, like they didn't notice that before. Are they? Because I'm thinking, okay, are they trying to say that he was hiding until they went into the basement?
Yeah.
But then they didn't. But then last week they showed him in his car gone before they went into the basement. Like I said, it's like there's a missing scene, and this episode made it even more ridiculous.
Well, it's probably going to make the blooper reel because was probably so bad that was the best take that they had was not good enough to air.
So Ronald goes to get Scarlett and her daughter. I think Phoebe is the daughter, and he has his truck, and he's like, "Hey, we're gonna go camping. It's spontaneous. It's fun. S'mores for breakfast." They say it like 4 times, and she agrees. She's like, "Yeah, that's cool." They head out into the middle of nowhere, to camp. I did not think he was going to bring the body with him. I laughed, dude. When I saw the blood, I was like, "What?" And then I was like, "Oh, I guess he's going to bury it," which we see at the end of the episode. But yeah, I legit was shocked that he was bringing the body.
Well, the best part is it seems as though the reason he was trying to get them on board so quickly is because he didn't want the body to stink and rot even more. So it's like, no, we got to go like right now. So then he finally gets them on board to leave, but how poorly did he wrap that body up that it was not just like a little bit of blood was seeping out. It was all the blood was seeping out. It was just pooling everywhere. And it it was just great because you said Phoebe. I don't remember her name
I
yet
think
either.
it's Phoebe. For whatever in my mind, I think it's Phoebe.
We'll just call her
Could be
Phoebe.
wrong. Yeah, we'll call her Phoebe. Her name, the character's name is Phoebe.
We'll just call her Smelly Cat. But I don't know because they showed this whole scene where she saw the blood. So to me, I felt like they were tying all the blood together. I didn't think that she was going to walk in or walk up on her getting buried. I figured that she was going to see blood in the vehicle and then be like, hey, there's blood here too, and tie it together that way. Because why else was her finding blood was a setup for what, a 10-minute explanation of why there's evil people in the world? They, and even that scene was great. So I don't know. There's scenes in this show that the whole show itself is very over the top, hokey, almost like late 80s, early 90s kind of silly that it's so bad. But then there's scenes like that where it feels like it's setting something up, but then it doesn't.
No,
And that goes back to the rushed 6 episodes that they had to do, or 7, or however many they put together in a month.
speaking of rushed, we get Mark and then like Jerry joins him, and I guess they're a team now. And he's like, "All right, we found this body in this freezer. Now we know it's Steve, who is Scarlett's boyfriend, husband, whatever. Phoebe's. I looked it up. It
Baby
is.
daddy.
Yeah, exactly. And I guess either her or her sister or both of them together killed him, and he's been in that freezer. But
for
the thing I'm
for 8 years.
for yeah for almost a decade. But the main thing here, the going to the whole, they needed it to be quick. He's just like, yeah, I got these guys, CSI guys out, and we're gonna do the autopsy and everything right here. It's like, what? They wouldn't do that.
And the
Um,
pop outside of the house.
yeah, and then we're gonna just hang out here and eat cookies and oh, by the way, this crime scene, Jerry's just gonna come down here with some coffee and hang out, even though she's not a cop or anything. I mean, look, those are the kind of things I can completely forgive, even in like a police procedural or anything like that. But it compounded with everything else, it is funny
But it's one of those things where Mark is becoming one of my favorite characters. I don't know why. I think
because he's
he's
got cool ass facial hair, dude. Like this,
probably.
the whole look, man.
I I don't know. Probably. I think the show is written so poorly, and I don't mean poorly like I do mean it's the dialogue's awful, but everything he says, it's not necessarily more believable, but it feels like it fits the character. Whereas some of the things other people say, whether they deliver it good or not, it doesn't fit. But everything he says, I don't know if it's his acting ability or what, but he sells it and it feels good. Just like Cheyenne, and we talked about that beforehand. All
Best
this,
performance in the show,
yeah. So
Diane. Yeah,
to me, Mark and Cheyenne are, I don't know if it's their acting ability or just the way they're able to sell the lines, but I don't hate, even though sometimes it's ridiculous as shit. I actually enjoy both of those characters quite a bit.
Cheyenne feels like she's in a better show, and she somehow fell into this show, and like like it doesn't make sense. It's like her, like you said, her delivery, her scenes, they feel like real acting, and I'm like, what? Um, so it's not quite toxic waste, but basically it's chemicals. That's the plot. That literally is a field of yes, it is. And that's the big secret. That's the big reveal is that they, for many years now, have been hiding chemicals from corporations or whatever. Everyone's in on it, including the sheriff, and that's it. And by the way, there's a bunch of people died while storing it, and they just put them in the barrels.
Well, that I think they're showing too that I think as they dig up more of the barrels, which I don't think that they'll do it before this, whatever this plot line ends, but I think they'll find out that there's probably more people uh, than just Cole, because I know they moved Cole Danvers to one of those barrels. But I am curious as to if they find more than just his body, like how many people passed and they just were like, oh, fuck it. And they just threw him in some chemical barrels and buried him out in the middle of this giant field.
Well, Rosie's dad, another character I don't recall his name. He basically said that. I guess they because they were like, yeah, we hired immigrants and stuff to help move this shit, and if they died, we just fucking threw them in the barrel. And I'm like, dude, if you were involved in this shit, like how could you live with yourself? I mean, I get, you know what I mean? Like, it's like, holy shit, dude. Um,
He
but
told you that they paid him.
yeah, you're right. He literally said they paid me off. That was his exact line. But yeah, if this all gets exposed, which I'm assuming it will, him, the cops, the entire family outside of, I guess, Cheyenne, maybe Margaret. I don't know. I'm assuming she knew about it. I don't know how that's going to play out. She'll probably end up. I don't know. I think her and Horst are going to kill each other in the next couple episodes. I mean, she did literally tell him she was going to kill him.
Yeah, that was funny.
Yeah, that whole scene. But going back to the chemical waste, how do you feel about that? We were saying it would make sense if this tied into the Canadian plot line with the, all the kidnappings and the trafficking, but it's like, no, it's literally its own story.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know how I feel about it, because had it tied in, it to me, the whole reason, because the Ronald storyline is still there, so you don't need it to tie together. Like, there can be two separate things running at the same time. It doesn't, because right now you have Mark and Jerry working on the Ronald storyline while Cassie and Jenny are working on the other one. So you're basically just running two different procedurals at the same time, which isn't uncommon in cop shows. There's multiple cases. Like, I get it. That's not a bad thing. But to me, it would have added weight to the first half of the season, because those first 9 episodes, you make it out to be this gigantic ring without ever explaining it. So if they would have tied the Klein saucers in on it, it would have, I don't know, added some weight to the first half of the season. But now it's almost like those first 9 episodes, which I felt were, I mean, they were still just as crazy. The dialogue was still bullshit, but it felt like it was building to something with the big payoff. And now there's been like no payoff on that storyline. And now you just got Ronald walking around killing people because they know who he is. That, I don't feel like that storyline is ever going to pay off now. So knowing that they're not tied into the human trafficking, it's almost disappointing, because now, unless they pick it up, because that's what I feel like Mark is there for.
Yeah.
But now I don't know, because I don't know how they're going to tie it back in. It's almost like an excuse to bring him in, but then they're never going to readdress it. Like, I don't know.
Season 2, man, I guess.
Yeah.
Well, we still don't know what. Remember, Rick had called in the people to come down and get the girls. This, going back several episodes, and
he didn't call anybody.
Huh?
He didn't.
Yeah, and it's like he calls them. He's like, they're on their way. They never showed up. The assumption was they showed up. They saw, oh, it's crazy, and they left. And I kept thinking that was, going to be a big deal. That was going to play. As a matter of fact, we had all these theories that they were going to try and kill him in the hospital because he may talk. Like, there was a thing there, and we know now that it tied to this Canadian syndicate and all this stuff. And you see it, like you said, Mark has referenced it a couple times, so it's in the background, the idea of this. And I guess maybe they're setting it up for something in a future season, but or remember when Ronald stole that information, the book and all the
Yeah,
information. Yeah, I mean, all that. What did he do with it? Like all these drop plot lines.
and that's what I was saying. Like when you had episode 9 end, you felt like it tied up, Rick's story. They tied up a couple of the stories, but they built up this huge story behind Ronald, and now it's like they're making him out to be a weird serial killer who's teaming up with another weird serial killer, and that's it. Like they dropped the whole human trafficking storyline. And now I have another question. Remember the birthday cake scene?
Yeah.
Now that feels like a throwaway scene. Now, like,
Yeah.
what the hell happened with that? So it's just really weird. So unless the last episode of this season explains a whole bunch of shit, and you can go back and be like, "Oh, okay, this was a tie into this," which I doubt, but I don't know. There's only, I think, what, 2 episodes left.
Yeah. There's only two. They'll wrap. I'm assuming they'll wrap up the whole chemical dump ranch storyline, but as far as Ronald, they might get Ronald in the end. I mean, at
I
this point, I would hope not, to be completely. If there in fact will be a season 2, if they go ahead and greenlight and say, yeah, we're doing season 2, I say let him stay free, and why not? I mean, well, you know what I mean? Like, why would you take him out at this point?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't think that there would be a reason to. He's what's carrying that storyline, and I am curious as to what, if anything, they're going to do with it.
So the Horst and Margaret stuff. There's multiple parts. Some of it's worth talking about. The rat poison story. The biggest thing, it's funny. We talked about it before we started recording, and you actually sort of laid out the meaning of the scene, and I was like, yeah, actually, it's very. You're right. Um, but it was stupid. The thing that bothered me was the fact that he. So he was like demanding his dinner. He was sitting at the table, and she went to make him a meatloaf. I guess from scratch. It was like, meat. Do you know how long it takes to make a meatloaf from scratch? It's not a quick situation. So he sat there for an hour and a half, 2 hours. I was like, what the hell? Now, of course, she puts the rat poison in. It doesn't do anything to him. There's this, like you were saying earlier, if you want to go into it, the meaning of the scene, but the time frame bugged me.
Well, yeah, because the whole thing, it felt like there was a reason. I don't know who the hell the dog's barking at. You probably heard something, but it.
You heard meatloaf.
They had the meatloaf, and they're like, "Where the hell's the meatloaf?" Actually, it's probably the storm or something blowing over outside. But you good? You made sure the house was safe. But they, the whole the the rat, poison thing. To me, it felt like her explaining. No matter what she's tried to do, she's tried to defend herself, and she still gets defeated at every turn. So because she's constantly defeated, she's constantly ran down, she's constantly losing. It explains her feeling of just never being able to win, never being able to overcome Horst. Like he's always won, no matter what happened. She's always his to do with whatever he wants. But once Blake died, that changed for her. It's, now she's finally willing to stand up for herself, and she's trying to take everybody with her. But like you said, the meatloaf story felt like a very dumb way to make an analogy about that.
Yeah, it's funny the scene where she's dressing him, helping him get dressed for the funeral. Now tell me if you agree or disagree. It felt like two actors who were doing a great job with the part that they had. Like there were a few moments where she was really taking the scene and doing something cool with it. Him too. But the dialogue was stupid. So it's sort of this thing fighting itself where it's like the dialogue's just not there. But these are two people who can act, and I liked what when he was telling her how he truly felt about her. I mean, it was very brutal, but still, I think you could have written it a little better. And then her response, I thought was solid, except for the one stupid ass line about the spit and the cup and uh,
or the cold cup of spit
yeah.
or whatever. That a
But
Montana saying, like cowboy saying, or
it's a ranch saying.
oh
I
yeah,
I have no
like
idea.
my Wyoming ranch.
But I did like the, I'm going to kill you, and I wouldn't expect anything less. I don't know. There were certain exchanges there. I was like, all right, you could tell that they worked on it. They did a good job as performers. Yet the material wasn't quite there.
Yeah, but once again, she hasn't been. I don't know if it's been even. It's felt like she's played like 7 different characters throughout this season, and she's only been in what, like 4 episodes, uh, and very seldomly in those episodes. But it felt like this episode she found her.
She found the character.
Yeah, she
Yeah.
found what she was trying to be. So prior to this episode, I hated her character. I didn't like it. It felt like a Lifetime movie kind of character where
Worse than that.
but yeah. Well, I'm just talking about like she's calm and then 2 seconds later she like completely falls apart and is screaming and over the top. So it felt very low budget, very awful. But for whatever reason, this episode, although the dialogue does need a lot of help, I don't know who writes it, but it's bad. But it felt way better. It was the character finally felt like she found herself. And I know I talked to you about this. Did you know who like the showrunner is for this? Did I tell you all the things?
Yeah, you did. Yeah.
I gotta look it back up because I don't remember, but it just caught me off guard because I had no idea. I was like, no way, because it felt so disconjointed and off. And let's see, there he is, David E. Kelly. David E. Kelly also did The Practice, L.A. Law, Big Little Lies, which was great, but he also did like Ally McBeal. He was the executive producer on The Undoing, which was great. So like there's these great shows that he's super involved with, and then you have this.
But like I said, yeah, because we talked about that, and I was like, I think he was involved in the concept of taking the books and translating it, and he was probably there for the first episode or so. But there's no way in hell he's on these sets. I will not believe that he's on the set or in the day-to-day operation of putting this show together. I would be shocked.
I can tell you right now, it is Big Sky, created by David E. Kelly, written by, for television, David E. Kelly. 16 episodes.
There's no he wrote every episode.
He was on the writing team.
Oh yeah,
everyone.
Well, maybe after the first couple episodes and they got the ratings were decent. He's just like, okay. I'll just sit back and he came up with the meatloaf story. He's just now maybe he's just trolling now. He's like, I want to see how bad I can make a show and how successful it'll be. Because you think about this, real sidebar on this topic. You do something like The Undoing, which, like you said, perfect, amazing performances, great dialogue, cool soundtrack, just a really grade A type of series. Outside of the ending, I didn't love the ending. And a show like Big Sky is going to get way higher ratings than The Undoing.
Yes,
because, and so you got to sit back and think if you're writing and you're working on these kind of productions, there's got to be a piece of you that's just like, fuck it. If this is gonna be better and make do better, then whatever. I'm gonna write a scene in which a guy named Rand, a character named Rand, who lives in a trailer, makes meth, and lives near toxic waste, is going to describe his vision for what
Oh,
would be
wait,
the greatest vision of a maze that involves bears, wasps, traps, and a compartment where he can be underground, where he can reach up and grab people and pull them down. You can have clown
they're
nights,
dying.
cannibal chainsaw nights. That was one of the worst scenes I've ever seen, ever on television. I was in awe of this scene.
It
I
made me
mean,
feel like a Roma movie. Like,
dude, this was trauma material. 100%. That was straight. Yeah, 100% agree.
because as he's saying it, I was like, wait a second, what? He wants to do a year-long corn maze, or like those haunted woods, or the what are some of the other ones? There's the like paintball zombie things. Like
Well,
that's what he wants to do.
but
He
the
wants
angle
in
is
a
that he wants it to be real, and that
yeah
people have to sign waivers because there's gonna be like real fucking bears and stuff. Like, and I know they're playing, oh, he's crazy, but damn,
yeah that's yeah, he can be crazy as all get out, but that's so weird. Like you said, bees. He's gonna start like a bee farm, or
he
like
said traps,
yeah.
like jigsaw.
Someone's gonna hit like a tripwire and a hornet's nest is gonna fall.
Yeah, it was wild. Like that, I'm watching the actor do this, and I'm like, there's no way if you had handed me that scene, I'd be like, no, I draw the line. Uh, And then the guy playing JW has to pretend like, he's concerned for his brother. He's like, yeah, you're crazy, brother. Um,
Yeah, because like you said, JW's listening to this and being like, "Wait, what?" and has to not react. Like as an actor, JW hasn't had the best scenes, the best lines, but the fact that I don't know how many takes it took for him to even keep a remotely straight face and look concerned. But dude, he's way better than me because that would have took us. Oh God, I would have just been laughing the whole. It would have been the outtakes like
like,
110 times. I would have just kept laughing. We'd had to go into day like 3 of trying to film that one scene.
like I used to watch the 100. I watched the first handful of seasons. I liked it,
I watched the
just
first 4 or 5 seasons.
yeah, it just kept going, and I was like, yeah, I'm done. But I say that to say it did not have the best dialogue ever. At times, story beats would be like, what? But it was Shakespeare compared to this.
Yes.
Um, but yeah, that's the and then your favorite scene because before we recorded, I was like, yeah, my favorite scene is the Rand Maze scene. That was insane. And then you don't want to talk about the picture scene.
it, I I don't know. Every scene with the mom in this episode, like I said before, it's like she finally found the character. It felt so much better. It felt more rounded. Cheyenne, who has been the shining star as far as every scene that involves the Klein saucers, in my opinion. But she runs over and rips down this like blanket that's hung up on the wall, which I don't know if it meant anything to anybody. I don't know if it was important, but whatever. She rips it off the wall. And then she hands this picture to JW and's like, hang it up, and rips the nail out of Rand's mouth. And then, so I'm thinking it's evidence, or it's like the first dollar, or some kind of piece of paper stating, who they're burying stuff for, a bone of somebody who's died. So I'm like thinking all these things. And they hang up a picture that looked like a kindergartner drew it of like a coffin and some blood.
It was like,
Like,
no, there were like drugs and a ghost. And
yeah. It,
I was like,
it
what is this?
because it didn't make any sense. Like
Well, I think the ghost thing was like the evil force over the ranch,
yes,
and then
but
you had all the little drugs, I guess, because she's addicted to drugs, and yeah, in the coffin is all the death.
but But even some of that I understood. But all right, she wants it hung up in front of everybody because they're all there and they'll all see it. But then it's a picture like the size of an 8 by 10 with
That
all
was
this
the best
all
part, is
deep.
how small it was.
Like nobody's gonna see that. Like, do they think that all these guests are gonna get up and walk over and inspect the picture now? Like, no. They're all just gonna go home and nobody's gonna know anything.
I love how everyone at the funeral had no dialogue. Not even like off camera side dialogue. Like they're like, we're not paying any extras. Like, you will stand there, we will pay you SAG minimum.
It was
And that
probably
is
the
it.
writers and everybody else. They just had them stand there,
Yeah,
like the
um
cameramen.
now do
The
you
grip.
think this would have taken some level of thought, but do you think they set up, I think an episode or two back, that Rand likes to have nails in his mouth just for this scene?
I would say yes because it feels like some forethought, but the fact that um, Ronald is still like running around like with blood everywhere and not explaining anything he's ever done over the last like 14 episodes. It's one of those things where I'd like to think that it was a funny little setup, but I don't know. I, I hope so. Just because it's so bad that it would be great for them to think of this 4 episodes ago. Like, he always has a nail in his mouth. We're going to use that to hang up a picture the size of a graduation photo.
The Are we already at that point? Yeah, I guess so. The finale, all the typical Big Sky, final 3 minutes where a lot of crazy stuff happens. And this we get Ronald decides he's going to go ahead and bury Scarlett's sister out in the middle of the woods, and oh, Phoebe's there. She sees it. Well, she doesn't quite see it. She's just far enough back to not completely see what's going on. Maybe he'll make up something about, oh, it was a deer and I'm burying the deer. I don't know. But we have that. Then we have Mark and Jerry go to Scarlett's house and they discover that, okay, Scarlett and Ronald are together. So that's something they have. And then finally, Cassie and Ginny go out with Rosie's dad. They're going to take pictures of all the chemicals and the dead bot skeletons inside them. The sheriff sees them. He calls Horst, and I'm assuming that's Horst in the truck, or JW, or Rand, or a combination of them all. Um, how do they get out of this pickle?
Well, let's see. Uh, I don't. It's one of those things where it would make the most sense for them to kill Phoebe because a kid in a show like this, unless they're going to recast it next, it's one of those things where it almost becomes like a weight. And I only tie this into, I like Blacklist the first couple seasons. The last like 2.5 seasons have been complete and utter dog shit. But it's carried by James Spader and his acting ability and a couple of the other guys. I like Haram but I hate Elizabeth King, like the main female character. Like, I hate her character so much. But she had a kid like 3 seasons ago, and that kid's never around. That kid doesn't exist anymore. Like, oh, she's staying with Aunt so and so. Like, she's just not there anymore.
It's like Ginny's son, or shit. Cassie has a son. I
Yeah,
just remembered.
that's
Yeah, yeah.
like, so it's one of those things where I feel like she will not be around too much longer either way. I don't know if this is how they end her story, but to me, it would make the most sense. But it would also, you would see whether or not him and Scarlett would stay together. And she would just be like, oh, I can't believe you did this, but, I know that you're a murderer now. I know who you really are, and like all this stuff. Like, to me, that would be the best way to kind of move their story forward, showing that they're both crazy as shit. Or even having Scarlett kill her kid, like her own kid. And then, that would be a way to tie them together. They're both crazy. They're both murderers, whatever. the Klein saucers or the sheriff seeing them out there, and the Klein saucer showing up. That would be a great way to tie up the sheriff's part of the story. But with there being a season finale coming up, if they end the Klein saucers episode next week, to me it's too soon, because now you have the mom and Horst basically, they're getting ready to go to war with each other. So unless this storyline carries through us to next season, it's not going to be quick enough to tie up their storyline. Well, I guess it could. Shit, they just killed Blake with a shovel, like out of nowhere. So I guess it wouldn't be that hard.
I get the feeling that they're, this is my theory. They're going to. So as far as the Ronald stuff, I don't know. I could, if you're gonna do something as dramatic as killing a child character, I don't know if the show can pull it off well. Like, you know what I mean? Like that's a pretty dark thing to do, and I don't know. I mean, they may try to do something like that. We'll see. But I don't know. But like I said, I hope the Ronald story at least doesn't. I hope it continues into next season, assuming there's a next season. And as far as the ranch stuff, what I would do if I was Cassie and Jenny out there and I see that truck coming and I can tell who it is, I think it's Horst or whomever, I'm just pulling my gun out and I'm emptying a clip. Simple as that. At this point, fuck it. I'm not going to do any of this standoff shit. No, you've seen what they are capable of. You know what they're about.
Well,
shoot.
And you could chalk it up to they just discovered dead bodies inside of whatever they're not committing. They are applying self-defense measures because they don't feel safe. Now, however, they are trespassing. So there's a fine line either way, but I'm pretty sure that they could get away with self-defense knowing that they could probably find, 30 dead bodies out there. So
yeah. Another thing going into the overarching, or what we thought was an overarching story of the trafficking, Mark brought up his sister again. I really think that that's going to tie into all that and be a part of, if there's another season, that storyline. So I think his character will stick around. I think that whether or not Ronald is directly involved, they're going to be pursuing that stuff. And I think it's going to tie into his sister and stuff. Otherwise, what was the point?
Oh, I think that they could do it without Ronald. I think that they could basically, at the end of this season, catch Ronald, he kills himself or whatever, and then Mark finds all the books and all the evidence or whatever.
Oh, shit. Yeah.
I don't think that you need Ronald to make Mark relevant. I think that you could still tie that. I just thought of that too, by the way. But I think that you could still tie it back in to make the first half of the first half of this season matter. But that would almost feel like pre-thought. So I hope, because the way that they're applying Ronald's character, it doesn't feel like him and Mark are going to line up to continue the story. You know what I'm saying? Like Ronald getting caught, it would feel like such a stretch for it to go backwards. Because with all the shit he's done now, bringing up something that happened 7 episodes ago feels like going backwards, whereas opposed to...
Yeah, the problem with Ronald for me at this point is you've spent so much time building this character and giving him a backstory and actually character development to some degree, even if it's poorly written. To take him out at this point would feel pointless. Because I can pretty much say right now, with very little doubt, that they're not going to find a more interesting villain than Ronald in a season 2. The way they write, I just don't see it. Because you could argue and say, well, Rand is an attempt to do a Ronald type character, and holy shit, it's horrible. So I wouldn't take him out, but they very well might. They killed Legarsky.
Well, when you look at because this was supposed to be like a limited series type thing, and I think a lot of people announce that kind of stuff now, so that way, if it doesn't get picked up for more, they'd be like, "Oh no, it was just a limited series." And then if it gets picked up and it's making money, they're like, "Oh well, we decided to continue it." Uh, but this showrunner, creator, writer guy, David E. Kelly, who's married to Michelle Pfeiffer, by the way, um, he, The Undoing was a limited series. It was great, but I think with this, the first nine episodes felt fleshed out. And then it kind of went off the rails a little bit at the very end, but I think it's because they had to extend storylines. So once this season's over, uh, clearly we've given it a chance. I'm really curious as to where they will go, given more time to write, more time to kind of flesh stories out, more time to prepare, with, you know, the David E. Kelly guy attached to it, knowing some of the other stuff he's done. If he's given more than, a month to write 7 episodes, I feel like it may be better, but I really have no idea.
That is a good point. If they take a summer break and they have several months to actually write an outline and flesh out a season arc, yeah, maybe we shall see. But yeah, the horse and all that'll be all wrapped up in the next 2 episodes.
My fear with that though is that I might not like the show.
If it's good,
if it's good and well written and stuff, I might stop caring.
Well, the problem is, if it's good, it would probably be just okay, and I'm not looking to watch an okay show. That's why I don't watch a lot of the various cop shows that are out there. They're all decent, but they don't do anything particularly great, and they're not shitty enough to make fun of or laugh at. So they're on that middle road, and yeah, I agree with you.
Yeah, it might be like good enough to be a like CIS Los Angeles or whatever, the NCIS, the offshoot that.
But those are just so middle of the. I mean, they're competent in their writing, but they're just so middle of the road. And that's why I don't care for them. I like, I loved. Did you watch the Sherlock, the Benedict Cumberbatch Sherlock stuff? Yes.
And Luther.
Luther. Oh God, Luther, fantastic series. Like I love that shit. Like if you're gonna do that kind of stuff, it needs to be on that next level, or it needs to be Big Sky, where I can just be like, what the hell is this? If it's in the middle, it's sort of boring to me. I know it's a weird thing, but I like a lot of. I mean, we watch a lot of old shitty action movies like Killing American Style or The Room. I've seen The Room several times.
Transmorphers.
God, that's a bad one. I forgot about that. We did watch that. You rented them. Yeah.
Those are glorious.
Well, yeah. So that's sort of my thoughts on Big Sky as well. If it was better, I might not like it. You're right.
Yeah. So, yeah. In all honesty, you have because it's not Western enough for me to like enjoy it like a Western, because I love Tombstone. Like some of my favorite movies, like I love Westerns, like actual legit Westerns, but it's not sci-fi oriented. So it's not like a Westworld or something like that. So now you just have a cop show that's filmed on a ranch, and I have zero fucking interest in watching a good cop show on a ranch. Like, zero. Absolutely no fucking way.
Yeah, I agree. Because the fun part of watching this is texting back and forth. It's like, holy shit. You won't believe what happened. Larry, who's a part of the channel, and those of you who frequent it know, he doesn't watch Big Sky, and so sometimes he'll listen to part of our review, or he'll say, "Hey, what happened to Big Sky?" And I get excited because I literally can pick any scene, and I'm just going to explain the scene, and he's like, "That's not real." I'm like, "I swear it is. I'm not making shit up. That happened." So yeah, it's almost like watching a trauma film where you're just like, "Yeah, that's a thing they did in this."
It's like if trauma got picked up by a network and wasn't allowed to be trauma.
Yeah, we had to keep it, PG 13. But all right, two left. Wow. Anything else to say about episode 14?
I don't think so. Plenty.
Well, I enjoy doing these. Like I said, we usually do these in the evening, and I usually have a couple beverages. And
Oh yeah, I enjoy it. It's my break between classes.
yeah. Well, all right. Yeah, we'll be doing the last two episodes and a lot of other stuff on the channel. Mayor of Easttown, loving that series. Check those reviews out. City on a Hill still running. What the fuck was the show I just did? The Girlfriend Experience, season 3. I'm doing that on Sunday evenings. And there's a couple of new shows coming up I have not yet talked to Spencer about, but more content is on the way. So look out for that, and we will see y'all next time.
Bye.
Bye.